I hope, how are you doing? International break. I watched England the other night. I mean, on paper, that should be a cricket score, shouldn't it? But games aren't played on paper. 2-0 in the end, and we didn't play well, did we? Only thing that got us over the line is our players just got that bit more individual quality, and there you go. Well, that's what it is, isn't it? I'll be fair, I thought they had a bit of a go at it, Malta. I was quite impressed with the attitude they showed. A couple of useful players and all. They got that Timo in middle of the park. I thought he was handy. Wrong side of 30, but I thought he was a decent player. And the two Mbongs, I don't think they're related. But striker, I thought he was quite lively for the team that, weren't even expected to probably get in our half. And right fullback, I thought he was quite useful. He's playing in Israeli First Division. So I looked at him and I thought, probably do a job for us, these, you know what I mean? But, not afford them international players, but if you can't sign players from League of Malta, Israeli First Division, you're probably in trouble, aren't you? Which we are. Chairman's not going to spend out. It's going to be an interesting January, that, isn't it? I think Danny Rowell's probably going to have some outgoings before he's allowed to bring anybody in. And that's a good thing, because I've been sat here this international week pondering about Wednesday. Obviously, things don't look good. Looks like we're heading for trapdoor unless we can turn things around on the pitch. And I've been thinking about Chansiri's tenure. There's still all this rattling on it background with demonstrations and anything else. And out of all the things he's done, we just simply haven't done business in transfer market. We haven't traded players. And you've got to if you're going to get anywhere. I'm trying to think about players we might have actually sold. But Lucas João, we got a fee for him. Who else? Do you know what I mean? We've signed a lot of players for a lot of money and we haven't traded any in. And there's a time to trade, isn't there, as well? I mean, the talk at the time was that Newcastle had bid somewhere between 10 and 15 million for Forestieri. And obviously a good player. But 29-year-old, £15 million, you've got to take that sort of money. 15 million quid, you can bring in 3 decent £5 million players, can't you? And that's what we've never done since he's been here. We haven't traded players. We've bought them high, ageing, and then let them go for now. That has been the biggest issue, and I've been thinking about that this week. And of course, if he'd sold somebody like Forestieri, big fans' favourite, of course, would he have got a bit of... You can't sell him? Of course you would, because fans' favourite, you're always going to get a bit of that, especially in this day and age. But where would our squad be in terms of balance if he'd done that? If we'd been able to strengthen other areas? Remember when I was younger, we got a centre forward, Dalian Atkinson. And I absolutely love Dalian Atkinson. He was only here that one season. We signed him for 450 grand. At that time, he was better than Hursti. And potentially I think he could have gone and had... Well, he should have played for England with the ability he got. And that's a different story for another day. But that summer we sold him to Real Sociedad. And I think it was 1.25 million, something like that. And as a kid, I was devastated. You can't sell him. You can't sell him. He's not a bit best striker in the world, like you do when you're a kid. But we sold him. And then we managed to get in Paul Williams. Not as good a player, but did a really, really good job. Actually, in many ways, was a better foil for David Hurst. I'll come to that in a bit. And Danny Wilson, who came in and was very much a prototype, a modern wide midfield player, tucked in, could tackle, kept shape well. And so we'd lost my hero at the time, but we ended up with a better balanced squad. And that's what you've got to do in football. You've got to trade and cash in when your players at the top of the peak for potential with the fees. and getting other players who either add to the team and make it a better whole, or are young and exciting and are also going to go up in value. So, yeah, the balance as well. And the reason I talk about balance is I go back to thinking about Forestieri. He played a lot of games up front. I never thought he was a striker. I always thought, play him on left. Give him a bit of freedom. So go out there, do what you want, really. But drift in, get involved with front two if you want. Pop up in that little pocket behind him. Whatever you want to do. And they were talking about he refused to play on wing and Carlos and this and that other. And then there was all that with Gary Hooper. But it's balancing it in dressing. You've got to have balance in dressing room. You've got to have balance on pitch. And that's where you've got to do your transfer business at the right time for you as a club. And what we've tended to do is stockpile players. Like I said, I look back at that. Dalian Atkinson was a great talent. And his career, it didn't reach what it should have. He should have played for England. Because the pace he got, the power he got, left foot, right foot, head, could dribble. The potential was better than Hurst and better than Shearer, in my opinion, but never fulfilled it. So we brought Paul Williams in for 600 grand, something like that, 700 grand. Smaller, not strong, not as quick, not a great dribbler. I know I'm not selling him here, but what he did do is he was fantastic at working the flanks. And he ended up, I don't know, you'd have to ask him, but I would imagine if you did ask him, that David Hurst would say that Paul Williams probably ended up being his best ever foil. And that's the other thing. Can you bring players in who fit the system, who fit the team, and fit in with the teammates around them, not just personality-wise, but on the park? And that's what a lot of transfers is. I know these days we look at transfers and a lot of it, especially with Danny Rule, we're hearing it's all going to be sort of data-driven and this and other, and that's fantastic, you know. You'd be a fool not to use information that's available to you. Pass completion rate, how many shots does he get off, how many, aerial duels does he win, how many times does he sprint in a game, how quick is it, all this stuff. And you'd be a fool not to use that. But I do still think, if it were me, go and find me one of these, and if somebody come with stats, this is these four, I know what I'm like. I'd still have to go and watch him in a live game because I like to see a player's running gait. I like to see a player's attitude. Now that might sound daft. You can see an attitude from 40 yards away, sense that, but you can. You can get a facial expression. You can get a body language impression. How do they react when, stats are great, but how do they react when things are going shit? How do they react when a ref's not giving them a decision? Do you know what I mean? And I think you can pick up on that by watching a player live. And a bit of the personality. But yeah, I don't know what that was, a bit of a tangent, but trading, transfer business, that's been probably the poorest things of the 8 years, that we've just stockpiled players and let them go for nothing. And he's putting in this £2 million, £2 million a month apparently. I don't know the ins and outs of that. I don't know if that's the day-to-day running. I don't know if that's the losses. I don't know if that's still related to COVID when there were no pay on the gate. But one of the ways that you stop making a loss is by trading players, and we've just simply not done that. There's been too many David Jones. I mean, I can remember that with Deitch at the time. Now David Jones has gone to Wednesday. Well, I can't stand in his way, We'd like to keep him and his experience. He's good to have about a place, but we can't match what Wednesday are paying in division below. Burnley in the Premier League couldn't match what Wednesday would offer him. There's something wrong there for a 33-year-old with one gear. George Boyd, another one. There's been a lot of them players. You live and die by your decisions in transfer market. And we're dying. And it is our decisions in transfer market that have cost us by and large. Two to 7 to go down. I know I'm a crackpot. I know I probably stand alone. I still think we can do it. I still think we can do it. That problem is scoring goals. Scoring goals. But at least now we're creating chances. The first quarter of the season, we weren't creating anything. We weren't creating anything, and we were all getting fucking crap strikers, hadn't scored any goals, you know. It's got to get in their box to give him a chance to score a goal, hasn't it? And at least we're now doing that. Young Masaba missed a couple of sitters recently, and he probably 2 with his feet and 2 in the... He could have had 4 goals in the last 2 games, just for a bit of composure. Ironically, the 4 chances he's had, I would have fancied Lee Gregory to bury. But here's the swings and roundabouts. I don't think Lee Gregory would have probably been on the end of those chances. That's where Masaba's pace comes in. So it's the front 3. We've chopped and changed. He's tried Fletcher. He's tried Smith, who's the only one who was really shown anything in terms of a goal return. And 2 of them are in the same game. Young Kadamatri's come on. He's looked lively. Masaba, Gassama, it flashes, some little bits of good, some little bits of bad. I put a tweet out the other day, and a lot of people didn't like the idea. A lot of this, he's not the Messiah, but and I just suggested, would it be worth having a look at Marvin Johnson as a wide player in front 3? You know, because I don't think he's a natural wing back. I didn't think he was a natural wing back in 3rd division. I certainly don't think he's a natural wing back in 2nd division. But he's played nearly all of his career as a winger. And I just wondered if, seeing as we're playing with a 3-4-3, if we could push him up and play him as a wide winger on that front 3, you know, there could be any combination you want. It could be Johnson, Windass and Masaba, or Johnson, Smith and Masaba, or Johnson, Smith and Windass, whatever combination you want. Would it be worth putting him up there? Because he's got a decent goals record. Now, it's not a fantastic goals record, but he spent the last 2 seasons playing as a left wing back, but he's still chipped in with vital goals. Is he going to get 20? No, I won't expect him to get 20. I don't expect anybody to get 20 in this team. But could he chip in? One thing you can say about him when he gets in 18-yard box, a finishing opportunity, is he's calm, and he does show that bit of composure. We've seen that with goals he scored last season. And that's the one thing I think we're missing at the minute, is that bit of composure. It's mental pressure, isn't it? We've only scored 7 goals all season, so when them chances do come, and they've been few and far between, the pressure for the strikers is absolutely monumental. And I think that's where the lines are getting fluffed at times. So a lot of people have dismissed it. I think there's this thing that because Marv wasn't in the squad and then he was, that there's that old thing, a player's never as great as he is when he's not playing, and I get that, but I do think it's something we could look at, especially if we don't find net in next 3 games, if Gassama, Windass, Masaba, if those wide players aren't scoring goals, I think that's something we should look at. Especially since I think we should be playing James at left full back anyway, but that's just me. I've been impressed with Danny Rule so far. I've been impressed that we're playing front foot football, which every manager since Chansiri's come in has talked about it. Oh yes, we're going to play on front foot. None of them really have. I think he's probably the first one that has. We are starting to create chances. I do worry a little bit. I'm not a huge fan of this 2 in middle at Park. I think too many teams these days have got an extra man in there. And if you've got 2 beasts in there, you know, look at Kante when he played for Leicester. They played a 4-4-2. They could have 2 in middle at Park because Drinkwater had got phenomenal stamina levels and were probably playing best football of his career, a real purple patch. And Kante was in there. It was just, I mean, he's worth 2, isn't he? He's literally worth 2 in there, so they could do it. But if you haven't got players like that, it's a big ask. It's a big ask these days to play 2 in there. And I know we need to go out and win games and score goals, but I'd still like to see Volks in there as We'll call him the insurance policy. But it also would allow Byers and Bannon to get forward. And that's something I really want us to do, because coming back to goals again, if your forwards aren't finding net, everybody's got to chip in. Everybody's got to chip in. Now we know that Byers and Bannon can score goals from midfield. Let's get them up there and joining in more. When they're back there, and you know, they were chasing shadows at times against Millwall. You know, I thought we played well, but when they got the ball, it was a big ask for them to in there, a massive ask. So stick Volks in there, bit of a cushion, and let them two go and support attack. Because I do think Byers can score goals, and I do think Bannon will score goals. And like I said, everybody's got to be chipping in. Centre halves need to start chipping in as well, by the way. I mean, Bernard, Diaby. I mean, Diaby's a mountain. Iorfa. Set pieces, especially corners, they've got to be starting to get their head on stuff. You know, Pato's a big lad. Them lads have got to start chipping in as well. And if they chip in, it lifts the pressure on forward, so that when they do get their chances, they're not snatching at them either. So at some stage, I do think if the results still aren't coming, I like the style of play. I like the way we're trying to get forward. But if the results aren't coming, I think he might have to have a tinker. And whether that's going to a 3-5-2 to give us a little bit more stability middle at park, or whether it's going to a 4-3-3. That way he can keep his front three, can't it? He can keep Smith and Windass and Masaba, or whatever combination it is, Gassama. But it also still gives you that bite in middle, if you can have three in there. Your full-backs, they can still get on. Reece James, we know, can get forward. Valentine, I think, is very comfortable getting forward. We know Pato will get up and down all day, work his balls off. Of course, that means playing a centre-back pairing instead of a three. Who would be my two at centre-half if we played a back four? I like Bernard. I like him a lot. He's impressed me. I think Dom's playing best stuff he's been playing for years. I'd still like to see a place in there for Hekwe. I think he's been overlooked so far. Whether it's all this stats-based stuff that, you know, Rull does with his running and his sprinting and obviously wanting to play out front back, which isn't probably Michael Hekwe's strongest suit, but gets his head on things, he organises, and whatever games I've seen him play, you can see him ordering folks about, you can see arms waving, but we know it can be quiet at Hillsborough at times, but you can hear him organising. I think team would be better defensively for having him in there somewhere. In a three, probably in for Diaby for me. In a two, tough call. I think Bernard and Iorfa have been good, but I suppose you could always play Iorfa at right full back, couldn't you? Marauding forward. Anyway, let me know what you would do. What formation would you pick? Would you put that extra player in middle at park? Go away two up front? Would you keep the front three? If we went to a back four, who would your back four be? Let me know. God, Dalian Atkinson, what a play. What a play. And yet we've become a more rounded team when he'd gone. One of them things, isn't it? Michael Owen. Liverpool's golden boy, hundreds of goals. Let him go to Madrid. What happened season after? Let him go to Madrid, change the way they play slightly. So they've got SK, Schmitzer, Barros, you know what I mean? None of them as good as Michael Owen as an individual player, but as a team unit. Oh, suddenly they win European Cup because they've then got two ways of playing. While he was playing for them, they were very one-dimensional. When he weren't playing for them, they could mix things up a bit. Sometimes that's what it's about. Sometimes it's about having a great player and letting him go, reinvesting that money and making the sum of the parts better as a whole. Sounded quite like I knew what I was on about then, didn't it, hey? Yeah. Oh, Christ.